The heat in Atlanta wasn't caused by the weather. The situation that Bambi, the queen of poise, found herself in was unexpected. Her tongue was keen, and her sense of disrespect was much harsher. The guy was Lil Scrappy, as she used to nickname him. Right now, the husband is sitting across from his newlywed bride, who is glowing from the drama and her pregnancy. Cameras were rolling, fans were ready, and emotions were running high. Interfere with the internet. As a result, it wasn't a combat in the traditional sense. Not shouting or switching roles, but words. Words have a powerful effect, like knives. And silk wrapping, secrets spilled forth. By the end of the night, this city was more than simply talking. Every look, every tear, every breath was being broken by it. This is more than just gossip. In this slow-motion cultural event, every frame matters. LHHL, Bambi, LC, Scratchy at VH1, at Love and Hip Hop Payel. It was neither a store nor a club. Not even the dinner was quiet. It was an impartial place. A popular location for reality TV is a chic lounge with dim lighting, expensive water, and cameras concealed but never really apparent. Everyone knew this was no coincidence. Someone called this meeting, and someone else agreed even though they knew it would hurt. The first to come was Bambi. She didn't feel like a warrior. There are no vivid patterns or glittering diamonds, just plain lines and a muted color palette. The kind of armor you wear when you don't want people on the opposite side to witness the storm underneath. Even though Bambi moved slowly, everybody who has seen her in ATL circles understands when her shoulders are so square. She's getting ready to be influential. A few minutes later, Lil Scrappy came in. He was full of nervous energy. The smile was short-lived. A hoodie half-sipped as though he wanted to relax but couldn't. Behind him came the new wife. Online rumors about her have been circulating for weeks. Even though she wasn't a rumor tonight, some people were supporting her and others were denouncing her. She came in heels with a calm confidence that was both rehearsed and real. The air tightened suddenly without a yell. With a quiet and determined, "Hey!" Scrappy felt the warmth of the water as if he were placing his toe into a pot of boiling water. Bambi was slow to answer. She took a sip of water, put the glass down, and stated, "We're actually doing this here." She spoke in a flat, exact voice that was neither warm nor acerbic. Just as Scrappy opened his mouth to speak, the new wife said, "We were going to meet out in the open. Impartial. Just sincerity, no sides, no pressure." The word honesty hit like a bullet in a library. For a time, nobody moved. The cameras were not zooming in. They bent in closer. Bambi leaned back in her chair. "From all of you, sincere? Now that's new." Scrappy grimaced. Just a micro-expression, nothing too remarkable. The kind that asserts that each syllable is slammed with force. The conversation started off politely, or at least strategically. Minimal. Disclosures of prior injuries, and careful language on future co-parenting, and little acts of respect. But behind it all, you could feel it. The fuck. It was shattering. Let's not act as though this was not unpleasant. Finally, Bambi leaned forward and rested her elbows on the table and said, "You started a new life while mine was still in ruins. Okay, it feels like brunch as we sit here." Scrappy sighed sharply and scanned the air for a safe phrase that didn't exist. Bam. It wasn't like that. It just happened. My intention is not to be insulting. Completed it already. Her cut was sleek and clean. No loudness increase, only authority. The change comes next. The scene where a heated argument turned into an earthquake captured on video. The new wife placed a hand on her stomach, like a reflex, yet quiet, non-dramatic, and non-performative. It was caught on film. Bambi looked down at it. "What is that?" Bambi inquired, her brows furrowed. The new wife glanced at Scrappy, back to Bambi after that. Then softly, as if she wasn't sure if speaking it would start a fire or extinguish it. "What we expect is silence. Not a tense silence. Quiet based on film. The kind where you could hear a heartbeat echoing through the floor and up the walls." Bambi didn't cry. Not quite yet. She didn't shout. She blinked twice and then sat back, taking in a blow no one could have predicted. Scrappy's remarks were said too soon. "We didn't plan to release it like this. I swear it's early. Even if it's..." Private, we don't want to lie if we were discussing everything. Bambi held out her hand, cut him off in the middle of a sentence, much like a queen interrupting a courtly gesture. Don't. Just don't. You think you're doing the right thing, but you've made matters worse. The wife tried to say something. I don't intend to hurt you. I only desired transparency. Bambi laughed, not a happy laugh. The concept of a Yuga Toby makes me laugh. Now, be open. After all the backdoors and whispers, you finally expect honesty. The atmosphere in the room shifted from fragile to dangerous, neither physical nor emotional. It may appear as though decades of pride, pain, treachery, and allegiance are evaporating into nothing. Every motion, every jaw tightening, every glance toward the door was recorded by cameras. Leaving, for instance, may save someone from saying something they might later come to regret. And that's when Bambi made up her mind. Congrats, really, but don't mistake my silence for peace. This isn't over, she said as she straightened her jacket, got to her feet, and looked at the woman who was now holding her ex-husband's child. Not at all. Drinks were not thrown with a scene number before she departed. Head in hands, Scrappy stayed still in his chair, the weight of 2 lives, possibly 3 now, pressing down like gravity itself, only the loudest echo and the quietest depart. In Atlanta, phones were ringing, group discussions were frantic, and blogs were creating headlines. Bambi, RL Scrappy, Arsh Love and Hip Hop at ATL Drama at VH1 at Love and Hip Hop, PTL at a Disabish, stayed there for a while after Bambi left, eyes still on the door, fingers making invisible circles on the table as if the wood could absorb the stress, and the cameras continued to roll. This was more than just a simple altercation, and fans were ready to take sides. I didn't want it to be like this, he said in a whisper, as he leaned back and let out a sigh that seemed to carry 10 years of regret. The new wife who will call Jay, since the blogs were already misspelling her name 1,000 times, finally found her voice. Quote, it wasn't wobbly, it wasn't reckless, but it also wasn't practiced. Without even raising his voice, Jay said, I can't stay in this city, in this circle, with your child and act like she doesn't exist. She needed to know. Respect is more important than a baby. You're not understanding. Bam. Scrappy gazed at the floor and rubbed his hands together. I'm not like that. Don't let her down. Once she feels hurt, it's irreversible. I repeatedly cut her. With the kind of eyes that ask silent questions that no one wants to answer on TV, Jay asked him, then, why didn't you tell her before tonight? Again, there was stillness, save for the faint hum of the lounge air conditioner and the clicking of a bracelet as a producer nervously twisted it, not picking up my calls. Eventually, Scrappy replied, it would have been awful if I had pulled up on her. When you said that you wanted to just put it out there, I also thought of neutral ground. Don't shout. I hoped she would see that we weren't trying to make her little. Even if he disagreed, Jay nodded, which was more akin to acknowledging the existence of a storm. She knew she couldn't steer. Unscriptedly, she asked Dot, are you still in love with her? Raw froze the table. The camera was not there to follow, so Scrappy blinked and glanced out into the distance. She is the mother of my children, which doesn't bother her. She loves complicated guys. Say that out loud for the baby, for me, and for her. Jay took a long breath. You could love someone and know that you can't stay with M. I still care about you, but we ruined the thing we were trying to heal with the way we hurt each other. Scrappy finally sat up straight, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees and gazing at his own image on the shining table. The words were straightforward, heavy, and uncomfortable, and for the first time in hours, the room relaxed. I'm not proud, but I also can't keep acting like I haven't moved on. Then, since you're in pieces right now, you need to build something sturdy for the kids because this one is coming for you. Jay placed a hand on his shoulder and reached across. This is grounding, not romantic. Half laugh, half sigh, Scrappy gave me a half. I feel like I've been in pieces ever since the wedding. Jay shook her head, and when the producer finally stepped in, it was to gently check Poe, like a teacher after a fight at school, rather than to provide directions. Would anyone like a break? No, I'd rather do this on video. Just the facts, without any cuts or edits that suggest she's crazy or that I'm boasting. Scrappy looked at her, astonished. You sure? There are a lot of eyeballs there. They both laughed and replied, I think I can handle some eyes, with a somewhat dry smile. I'm carrying a whole person, she remarked. Without a trace of agony, it was the first sound of the night. Amidst the turmoil, a fragment of humanity suddenly surfaced. There was no resolution or tranquility, only an understanding that something beyond betrayal now united the three of them. A culture, a city, and a child caught on camera. Word was spreading back outside, and within an hour, the hashtags were Scrappy Baby. Our Bambi deserves better, and EATL reality check. Inside the lounge were trending after someone's sister posted the image after receiving a text from someone's cousin who works in catering. Jay leaned back and placed a hand on her stomach again. He won't ever forgive you. Scrappy took a long time to answer. Do you think she'll ever forgive you? Then she could finally forgive me, quietly, and she would never forget. He only stared at his unopened glass of water as the wetness trickled down it. And it is the thing that will always hurt. The city would keep talking as the slowly moving cameras captured the weight of a man and a woman sitting there, not as villains or victims, but as two people who had entered a narrative without the luxury of solitude, without armor, and without a map. An hour would pass with no discussion of followers, revisions, or ratings, but the blogs would still be whirling and the supporters would still be taking sides. With the messy mechanics of duty and grief, it was merely a collision of two lives. All Scrappy, Bambi, Levandip Hospital, ATL Drama VH1 at Levopt Latiso Bombicium. Didn't go home right away. Wandered the parking lot with the phone in her hand, and wasn't reading the text that appeared on the screen while the cameras observed from a distance. Producers gave her the kind of space you give someone who is still, unsure of whether to shout, cry, or disappear, and she exhaled like someone drawing air from a wound as she finally climbed into the back seat of a black SUV, the low remarks recorded by a microphone still fastened to her clothes. She spoke to herself much of the time. We keep falling into the same pattern, different faces, same slashes. The guardrails came down without Bambi on the other side of him, and Scrappy and Jay were still in the lounge, but their discussion had become unfocused. It was an admission. I don't even know when we started breaking each other, said Scrappy quietly, as though he were speaking into a confessional booth rather than a television program. Maybe we thought more TV would boost confidence. Maybe it was the constant cameras. Jay listened without flinching. Even with the changes, you could tell that you were both fire. But fire burns. Sometimes it ruins everything. You thought it was safe. Scrappy nodded slowly, eyes far away. She held me down as the music faded and the streets grew silent. I wasn't always grateful. That's what irritates me the most. And there it was. The part about guilt is rarely understood by viewers. Not only the betrayal, but the regret that remains after the lights go out and leaves your tongue tasting like metal. Kami was outdoors now, finally answering a phone call from a friend who had been taunting her, and she continued. In a strained but forceful voice, he didn't just move on. He didn't even complete my chapter before beginning a brand new one. The microphone missed the friend's words. No, Bambi said. I didn't tear. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't give them that. Not in this way or on camera. That one statement shocked social media. Fans cut it up, added subtitles, and turned it into a TikTok sound. Not on camera gained popularity in less than an hour. For everyone who has ever had to suffer in public to keep some sort of decency, this is a call to action. Jay went back to the living room and extended his hand again. Not to console, but to anchor this time. You're going to cop rent. This has to be cleaned up, she added. Not only for her, but for the kids. It's not just a headline either. It's their family tree. Scrappy nodded and rubbed his temples as if 1,000 options were pressing down on one vulnerable spot. I know. This is just not how I wanted things to be. I desire peace and quiet as an adult. Instead, I was given a new battle. It was more than just an emotional dispute. It's related to logistics, conflicting birthdays, overlapping family holidays, and scheduling issues with joint custody. Everything had the air of betrayal today. Now that she was home, Bambi unwinded in a quiet living room while cameras only caught glimpses of her face. She finally said, "It's not even about him anymore," in low light, turning away from the camera. "It's about how I heal from someone, making me feel replaceable while I was still bleeding," she said, pausing to rub her leg as if to drum the pain out of her body. That candor struck me. I was with a man for years who couldn't even give me the grace to pause before he started. Again, and now I'm expected to applaud a newborn as if I were a guest at a play I wasn't invited to. It was a mirror held up to reality, not a joke or a breakdown. Articles about the emotional toll of high-profile relationships and every painful breakup when one person moved on like it was a sprint while the other was still crawling were among the many empathy threads that sprouted on Twitter. Podcasts examining how reality TV exaggerates every accident to the point of biblical proportions. Meanwhile, the authenticity was explosive, and the producers were quietly ecstatic, not because of the agony. Drama may be written, but heartbreak that seems to be streaming through the screen cannot. At last, Scrappy emerged from the lounge. "Hey, put on your hoodie." The paparazzi snapped images like vultures in a confessional. After one photo showed him wiping his face with his sleeve dot, the story officially changed from a horrible breakup to a cultural event. And by midnight, everyone in Atlanta and online had a side. Bambi, Fakir, Lil Scrappy, Jakir Love and Hop, ATL, Reality Unfiltered at VH1 at Love and Ipo Paddle at Addis Dub Bomb at Realisai. The next morning, Atlanta's air was thick with rumors in addition to being muggy. Hollywood launched little blogs that covered the fight, and radio programs started playing back clips of the confrontation like breaking news. Vast networks. Everybody had the same problem. How can a family go on when the news of a pregnancy closes the next chapter? When Scrappy woke up, he discovered a ton of missed calls from people he hadn't spoken to in months. 3 from his mother, and 1 from his manager. The company lives on controversy like beets. Get close enough to say you saw it happen. Everyone is looking for a reaction, a quotation, or a piece. The Frost Bistro's dot. 2 tables over from regulars who had been eating grits. There since before Love and Hip Hop ATL ever existed, a lady whispered to her friend as she read the story aloud. More deserving. But that baby has anything to do with the matter. That thought resonated for long. Alongside the public's outrage came a strange protective instinct for the unborn child, a collective reminder that a real creature was going to be born somewhere under retweets and hashtags. While Jay was still adjusting to the sudden shift from close relationship to headline, she even stared at her phone as though it were a ticking clock. She told a producer in a private off-camera interview, "I don't want my baby to be a plot point. Peace doesn't sell, yet that's all I wanted." Even when Scrappy tried to fix the damage, it ended up on a leaked audio cassette. Management convinced him to perform a live broadcast later that day, even though it sounded like a terrible idea, so he did it with his hood up and his voice down. There are no excuses for me. I will always love my children no matter what. Although, that wasn't the whole picture. What you saw was truthful. I find it annoying that everyone makes this into a show when real lives are on the line.